Good morning. Educators from Chicago Public Schools and neighboring districts, faculty from the city colleges of Chicago and other local colleges and universities, colleagues from the Pulitzer Center and their distinguished group of award-winning journalists, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alex Barna. I am the outreach coordinator for the Center for Middle Eastern Studies at the University of Chicago, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the 2016 Summer Teacher Institute. The title of this year's institute is Global Issues in Local Contexts, Turning International Journalism into Teachable Lessons. The Institute is co-sponsored by the University of Chicago's Center for East Asian Studies, Center for East European and Russian Eurasian Studies, Center for Latin American Studies, Center for Middle Eastern Studies, the Neighborhood Schools Program, the Oriental Institute, and UChicago Engages, and it is presented in partnership with the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting. And it is made possible through generous support from the Title VI National Resource Center grants provided by the Department of Education, the United States Department of Education. So these are your tax dollars at work coming back to benefit you all. Over the next 2 days, you will hear from a really fantastic group of journalists, of multimedia producers, of filmmakers, photographers, and education specialists. Before I introduce our first speakers, I'd first like to take advantage of my very brief time at the podium to highlight the importance of journalism and media literacy in the context of the region I specialize in, which is the Middle East. This university has produced some exceptional and truly remarkable scholarship about the Middle East, about its history, about its politics and cultures, but it is arresting to think how little we would know about what is happening today in North Africa and Western Asia without the courageous work of journalists who truly put their lives at risk to serve a broader populace by monitoring the powerful, creating a forum for public debate, discussion, and criticism, and exposing the truth. All of you have heard about the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, also known as ISIS or Daesh. All of you have heard about the political transformations known commonly as the Arab Spring. You've heard about the Syrian civil war and the subsequent refugee crisis. These are not just distant abstractions. These are real lives are at stake. These are real people, and the immediacy of their lives and the problems that their lives are connected to are brought to us by the wonderful work of journalists, and I can't emphasize enough how much we are indebted to them to be more informed global citizens. If we have any hope of remedying a problem, engaging an issue, or doing something for the common good, we must first understand the context of the problem that we're concerned with, and journalists are indispensable in helping us do that. The tools of journalistic inquiry apply to all disciplines and all subjects. It doesn't really matter what you teach. If you teach students to think critically and act like journalists, you are preparing them to become better writers, better scientists, better artists, better engineers, better mathematicians, better historians, and not to mention better public citizens who are increasingly engaging the world, not only as media consumers, but also as media producers in their own right. So with those thoughts, I am very pleased to introduce our first two speakers this morning. Fareed Mostoufi, Senior Education Manager at the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting, where he focuses on designing classroom resources and connecting journalists to students. He has been a freelance curriculum writer for the Pulitzer Center for several years, but he joins the team after working for nearly 4 years as a theater artist and educator in the Community Engagement Department at Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. He is passionate about social justice and is a firm believer in the power of storytelling to cultivate empathy. Now, along with Fareed, I'm also pleased to introduce Lauren Shepard, Outreach Coordinator at the Pulitzer Center, who is part of the education team. She works to engage students at the secondary and post-secondary levels with global journalism, community awareness, and reporting skills. She helps bring journalists to campuses and classrooms throughout the U.S. who mentor and inspire students and educators through journalism workshops, photography field trips, professional development, and international reporting fellowships for college students. In California, Lauren worked as a freelance journalist covering education, the arts, and local politics for outlets including the Orange County Register, Patch.com, and the New University. Writing these articles has shaped the way Lauren relates to members of her community as well as farther reaches of the globe. Please join me in welcoming Fareed and Lauren.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Let me see. Best day of your life, worst day of your life, something in the middle. Can I see? Some of you are finishing out school. All right. Me too. We're really excited to be here. So yes, yes, yes. Again, my name is Fareed Mostoufi. I'm the Senior Education Manager at Pulitzer Center, and we feel so privileged to be here to collaborate with you. This is an opportunity these next couple of days to reflect together about your classrooms, which you are the experts in, to share with you resources and connect you to an incredible group of professional journalists that we're very privileged to have together today. And then to have the opportunity to collaborate and find, how do these issues connect to the issues facing your students? How do these issues connect to the curriculums you're working on with your students? How can journalists and journalism and reporting be supportive of the curriculums you're doing? Basically, how can we work together? And how can you work with each other? So what's gonna happen now is we wanna share with you a little bit about our organization, and then we've got about 30 minutes to meet each other and find out our goals for this workshop. So we might be on our feet a little bit, we might be chatting a little bit, but it's gonna be fun. Everybody in for the ride? Yes. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Lauren.
A little bit about what we do at the Pulitzer Center is, so number one, we support the journalism that where publications didn't have the money to pay for journalists to go abroad anymore. All those foreign bureaus were gone. There was no more funding for that. So we try to fill that gap by funding the journalists' travel. And then they're still publishing work in all the same publications, and those publications themselves are kind of evolving and using new media. And so a lot of the journalists that we work with is exciting for us too, because we get to see the new ways that they tell stories. But we really find that those stories are valuable beyond just that publication date. And so another way that we use the journalism, our favorite part, I think we would say, having us be right here in front of you, is using it in education. And we use that at the secondary school level, as well as the university level, and that's why you guys would see, I love that there's a whole mix of everyone here. We've been working with community colleges in New York and Chicago as well, and so we're really looking forward to seeing some new partnerships. But really what it means in the classroom is this journalism, is the stories that we tell at the Pulitzer Center are these systematic issues that there's a global context to them, but there's also a context of history, where a journalist will go and report somewhere for a year, for a month or so, and then they'll come back a couple years later to find what has happened in that conflict. And so again and again, we'll kind of keep funding our journalists where their projects are these multi-year-long pieces of work. But what we can then do with that is use that in curriculum to teach history, to teach art, and science. I mean, we have so many public health stories as well. And so to tell you a little bit more about the Pulitzer Center, this little fun animation, I think, tells it a lot more concisely than I do. I write really long. I need an editor. So here's my little video editor.
Here is a young, ambitious journalist. She is eager to travel the world, to get up close and personal as she reports on issues that affect us all. She contacts editors to pitch her project. They're interested, but with no budget for international reporting, their hands are tied. Stuck and frustrated, the journalist gives up. When I was a young journalist, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch sent me to over 60 countries, covering stories just like this. Many news organizations had correspondents based abroad and bureaus across the globe. As the internet disrupted old business models, many of those stories went untold, and many of those news bureaus went dark. The issues hadn't gone away. They were more important than ever. But there were fewer journalists reporting in depth, and in the frantic quest for clicks and likes, more emphasis on the superficial and news of the passing moment. It was out of these troubling trends that the Pulitzer Center began, with the mission of raising money to support journalists in filling these gaps. Our approach has always been collaborative, connecting strong journalists and large outlets to reach the broadest audience, with an assurance to our grantees and partners of the independence that is crucial to responsible reporting. In our first year, we commissioned 9 projects. Now we support more than 100 a year, working with leading news organizations in print, broadcast, and online. Along the way, we have sought out opportunities for innovation as a leader in showcasing our journalism through film festivals, photo exhibits, ebooks, and more. Our biggest innovation was to make educational outreach part of our core mission. What began as a few presentations at schools and universities has grown and grown to nearly 500 events per year. Teachers benefit from the online curricular materials built to bring our journalism to even more schools. Some students do their own reporting, exploring the local impacts of global issues. Others win Pulitzer Center International Reporting Fellowships. All benefit from the deeper engagement with global issues that the immediacy of journalism makes possible. The Pulitzer Center model has evolved and expanded, but it still begins with a journalist, an issue, and a story. Support from the Pulitzer Center makes the field reporting possible. Its network of news media partners and educational institutions assures that the reporting has impact. And it's that demonstrated impact that persuades foundations and individuals to invest in us, making donations that allow us to support still more journalists. To us, this is a virtuous cycle, efficiently making use of skills and resources to produce the sort of journalism that is a public good for all. So when that young, ambitious reporter comes to an editor with a strong idea, it doesn't end in frustration. It ends with journalism, and with a better informed, more engaged public, one that is essential if our democracy is to thrive.
Yeah. And also animated by a grantee. So we really believe in building a community of journalists, but our community is not just journalists. Our community is educators, it's youth, it's everyone, because our mission is about connecting to global issues. So now in terms of getting to know everyone, we'd love for you to start meeting each other and for us to start meeting you. Thank you very much. Thank you all so much. So this has been very helpful. Has it been helpful for you? To sort of, now this is our hope. The rest of today, you are going to be learning about a lot of resources. You're going to be learning, becoming more enlightened about the world, more enlightened about, and you're going to be the experts in how these issues connect to your students. You're going to be learning about practical applications of journalism. You're going to be seeing some of the resources that could be used to engage your students. You're going to be seeing resources that are all going to be accessible to you and your students for free. So our hope is that this conversation gets us started for really you all now to become the experts in how does this material connect to your students and how can these journalists support your students. Because am I right, journalists, our goal is we want the students to know what you're reporting and their families to know and their communities to know.